My sister and family betrayed me, choosing her boyfriend and crushing my heart, but as his boss, I fought back, unmasking his deceit in a heart-pounding clash that shattered their lies and crowned my victory. "You're my sister, Chloe, how could you let them treat me like this?" I said, my voice cracking as I stood in the living room, staring at my family. They looked away, their silence louder than any words. I was 28, successful, and yet, in that moment, I felt like a stranger in my own home. My name is Debra, and this is the story of how my family chose my sister's boyfriend over me, only to realize I held the power they didn't expect. It's a messy tale of favoritism, betrayal, and finding my way through the hurt. It's also about the problems that piled up along the way, work stress, fractured friendships, and my own struggle to stand up for myself without losing who I am. Growing up, Chloe, my younger sister by 3 years, was the golden child. She's charming, with a laugh that lights up a room and a knack for getting what she wants. At 25, she's still got that spark, but it's paired with a selfishness I didn't see until recently. Mom and Dad adore her. They call her their free spirit, always excusing her impulsiveness while I, the responsible one, was expected to have it all together. I didn't mind much when we were kids, someone had to be the reliable one, but it stung when their favoritism followed us into adulthood. I'm a senior manager at a tech firm, a job I clawed my way into after years of late nights and sacrifices. I'm organized, maybe a bit of a perfectionist, but I care deeply about fairness. That's probably why this whole mess hit me so hard. Chloe, on the other hand, drifts between jobs, barista, yoga instructor, freelance artist, never sticking to anything. Mom and Dad always bailed her out, emotionally and financially, while I was told to figure it out when I hit rough patches. The trouble started 6 months ago when Chloe brought home her new boyfriend, Samuel. He's 30, tall, with a charming smile and a smooth way of talking that makes you feel like you're the only person in the room. At first, I liked him. He seemed ambitious, always talking about his big plans in tech. He said he was a project coordinator at a startup, which sounded promising. Chloe was smitten, and Mom and Dad? They were over the moon. They'd never warmed up to her past boyfriends, but Samuel was different. He knew how to flatter them, bringing Dad craft beer and helping Mom with her garden. It was like he'd read a manual on winning over parents. But something about Samuel rubbed me the wrong way after a while. He'd ask me vague questions about my job, like he was fishing for something, and his stories about work never added up. I brushed it off, maybe I was just being paranoid. After all, I was dealing with my own problems. My best friend, Sarah, had been distant, canceling plans and giving me one-word replies. Work was brutal, too. My team was under pressure to meet a deadline for a major client, and I was pulling 12-hour days. I didn't have the energy to play detective with Samuel. Then came the family dinner that changed everything. It was a Sunday, one of those warm evenings where the smell of Mom's pot roast filled the house. I'd driven 2 hours to be there, exhausted but happy to see everyone. Chloe and Samuel were already at the table, laughing with Mom and Dad. I hugged them, sat down, and tried to join the conversation. But every time I spoke, Samuel would cut me off, turning the focus back to himself or Chloe. Mom and Dad didn't notice, or didn't care. They were too busy hanging on his every word. Halfway through dinner, Samuel dropped a bombshell. "I'm starting a new job soon," he said, grinning. "Big tech firm, great opportunity. I'll be working under a senior manager, but I'm aiming to climb fast." He winked at Chloe, who beamed like he'd just won an award. Mom clapped her hands, saying, "Oh, Samuel, that's wonderful." Dad nodded, looking prouder than I'd ever seen him look at me. I forced a smile. "Congrats, Samuel. What's the company?" I asked, mostly to be polite. He hesitated, just for a second, then named my firm. My fork froze midair. "Wait," I said, "you're joining my company?" The table went quiet. Samuel's grin faltered, but he recovered quickly. Yeah, small world, right? I didn't want to make a big deal about it. I stared at him, my mind racing. My company was huge, but I oversaw the department he'd likely be joining. Why hadn't he mentioned this before? And why did he look so nervous? Chloe jumped in, laughing. Debra, don't grill him. It's just a job. You're not his boss or anything. Mom and Dad laughed, too, like it was a joke. But I wasn't laughing. I changed the subject, but the rest of the night, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The next day, I checked with HR. Sure enough, Samuel was starting in my department as a junior coordinator, reporting directly to me. He hadn't said a word to me about it, not at dinner, not ever. When I confronted Chloe later, she brushed it off. He didn't want to bother you, Deb. You're always so busy. Besides, it's not like you're going to be breathing down his neck, right? I tried to let it go. Maybe Samuel just wanted to surprise me, or maybe he was embarrassed to admit he was starting at a lower level. I told myself I'd be professional, treat him like any other employee. But things got worse. At work, Samuel was a disaster. He missed deadlines, ignored instructions, and acted like he was above the grunt work. Worse, he'd drop my name to colleagues, saying things like, "Oh, Debra's my girlfriend's sister, she's got my back." It made me look unprofessional, like I was playing favorites. I called him into my office after a week and laid it out. "Samuel, you need to step up. This isn't personal, I'm your boss, and I expect you to do your job." He leaned back in his chair, smirking. "Come on, Debra, lighten up. We're practically family. You don't have to be so hard on me." I was stunned. "This is work," I said. "If you can't handle it, that's on you." He shrugged and left, but after that, he got worse. He'd show up late, half-finished tasks, and charm his way out of trouble with other team members. I had to write him up, which I hated doing. I knew it'd cause drama at home, but I couldn't let him tank my team's performance. Sure enough, Chloe lost it when she found out. She called me, screaming. "How could you do this to Samuel? You're just jealous because Mom and Dad like him. You're trying to ruin his career." I tried to explain, but she hung up. When I went to family dinner the next weekend, the air was thick with tension. Mom pulled me aside before we ate. "Debra, why are you being so hard on Samuel? He's trying his best. You're making Chloe miserable." I felt like I'd been slapped. "Mom, I'm his boss. He's not doing his job. What am I supposed to do?" She sighed, like I was the one being unreasonable. "Just give him a break. He's family now." Dad was no better. During dinner, he kept praising Samuel, saying how driven he was, how he was going places. When I tried to talk about my own work, how I'd just landed a big client, Dad barely listened. Chloe, meanwhile, acted like I didn't exist, clinging to Samuel's arm and laughing at his dumb jokes. Samuel just smirked at me, like he knew he had them all wrapped around his finger. That night, I drove home in tears. My family had chosen Samuel over me, their own daughter, their own sister. I felt invisible, betrayed. And it wasn't just about work. The favoritism I'd ignored for years was staring me in the face. Chloe could do no wrong, and now Samuel was her perfect extension. I was the outsider, the mean one for daring to hold him accountable. The weight of my family's rejection wasn't new, but it hit harder now because I thought I'd earned their respect. Growing up, I was always the one who had to be okay. When Chloe got caught sneaking out at 16, Mom and Dad grounded her for a week but spent the whole time worrying about her feelings. When I struggled with calculus and asked for a tutor, they told me to work harder. I remember one Christmas when I was 12, saving up my allowance to buy Chloe a bracelet she'd been eyeing. I was so excited to see her face light up. But when she opened it, she just said, "Oh, cute," and tossed it aside to fawn over the new phone Mom and Dad got her. I cried in my room that night, not because of the bracelet, but because I realized even my best efforts wouldn't make them see me the way they saw her. That memory resurfaced as I sat alone after that disastrous family dinner, wondering if I'd ever stop feeling like the invisible daughter. At work, the tension with Samuel wasn't the only storm I was weathering. My team was under immense pressure because our client, a major retailer, kept changing their requirements mid-project. I was leading a team of 10, and while most of them were solid, one colleague, Mason, was starting to undermine me. He was a senior developer, talented but arrogant, and he'd been passed over for my role. Every meeting, he'd challenge my decisions, framing it as just asking questions but making it clear he thought he'd do better. With Samuel's mess already dragging me down, Mason's subtle jabs felt like another weight on my shoulders. I'd catch myself second-guessing my calls, wondering if I was cut out for this. Late at night, staring at my laptop, I'd think about quitting, not just the job, but the whole fight to prove myself. Yet, something in me refused to give up. I'd worked too hard to let Samuel or Mason take that from me. Another layer of hurt came from how isolated I felt outside of work. Sarah's distance wasn't just about Chloe's lies, it was a reminder of how few people I had in my corner. I used to have a tight group of friends from college, but life had pulled us apart. One had moved across the country, another was buried in new mom life, and the rest were just gone, lost to busy schedules and unanswered texts. I'd always been the one to organize get-togethers, to check in, but I was tired of carrying that load alone. With Sarah pulling away, I started spending my evenings scrolling through old photos, missing the days when I felt connected. I even tried joining a book club to meet new people, but I left after one meeting, feeling like an outsider among strangers who already knew each other. It made me realize how much I'd leaned on my family for that sense of belonging, flawed as it was. Losing them to Samuel's charm hurt even more because I had nowhere else to turn. Things got messy from there. At work, Samuel's performance didn't improve, and I had to put him on a formal improvement plan. He didn't take it well. He stormed into my office, accusing me of targeting him. "You're just mad because your family likes me better," he spat. "You think you're so high and mighty, but you're nothing without that fancy title." I kept my cool, but his words cut deep. When I told Chloe about it, hoping she'd see my side, she flipped again. "You're ruining his life, Debra. You're so controlling. No wonder Sarah doesn't want to hang out with you anymore." That hit me like a truck. Sarah? What did she have to do with this? I called Sarah, desperate to clear things up. She admitted she'd been avoiding me because Chloe had been badmouthing me, saying I was power-hungry and mean for how I was treating Samuel. Sarah didn't know the whole story, and she'd pulled away without asking me. I was losing my family and my best friend, all because of Samuel's lies and Chloe's loyalty to him. I was at my breaking point. Work was a nightmare, my family was against me, and Sarah's distance left me with no one to turn to. I started doubting myself. Was I being too hard on Samuel? Was I the problem? But then I remembered his smirk, his half-assed work, his manipulation. No. I wasn't the one in the wrong. I decided to fight back, but I had to be smart. First, I focused on work. I documented everything: Samuel's missed deadlines, his attitude, his attempts to undermine me. I met with HR and my boss, laying out the situation. They backed me, agreeing that Samuel was a liability. If he didn't shape up, he'd be out. Next, I tackled my family. I invited Mom, Dad, and Chloe to my apartment for a talk, no Samuel. I sat them down and poured my heart out. "I love you all," I said, "but I feel like you've chosen Samuel over me. I'm his boss, and he's not doing his job. I'm not being mean, I'm doing what's right. But you're shutting me out, and it hurts." Chloe rolled her eyes, but Mom looked uncomfortable. Dad stayed quiet. I kept going, telling them how Samuel had been acting at work, how he'd used my name to get away with things. "He's not who you think he is," I said. "And I'm not the bad guy here." Chloe stormed out, but Mom and Dad stayed. For the first time, they listened. I didn't expect them to change overnight, but it was a start. I also reached out to Sarah, explaining everything. She apologized, admitting she'd been too quick to believe Chloe. We started rebuilding our friendship, which gave me strength. The final blow came at work. Samuel's improvement period ended, and he hadn't met the requirements. I had to fire him. It wasn't easy. HR was there, and he tried to play the victim, saying I was biased. But the documentation spoke for itself. He was gone. When Chloe found out, she went ballistic. She showed up at my apartment, screaming that I'd ruined her life. "Samuel's devastated," she yelled. "You're so selfish, Debra." I stayed calm, telling her the truth. Samuel had dug his own grave. She didn't want to hear it, but I stood my ground. Then came the twist. A week later, Dad called me. His voice was shaky. "Debra, we need to talk. Samuel, he's been lying to us." Turns out, Samuel had been spinning stories about his unfair treatment at work, painting me as the villain. But when Dad pressed him for details, Samuel's story fell apart. He admitted he'd been slacking, thinking he could coast because of his connection to me. Mom and Dad were furious, not at me, but at him. Chloe, though, was still in denial, clinging to her perfect boyfriend. I could have gloated, but I didn't. Instead, I invited them all over again. This time, I set boundaries. "I love you," I told them, "but I won't be treated like this anymore. If you want me in your life, you need to respect me." Mom and Dad apologized, promising to do better. Chloe didn't say much, but I could tell she was rattled. Samuel was out of the picture soon after. Chloe dumped him when she caught him flirting with someone else. Things aren't perfect now, but they're better. I'm still at my job, stronger than ever, with a promotion on the horizon. Sarah and I are close again, and my family is trying to rebuild trust. I've learned to stand up for myself, to not let hurt fester. But I still wonder, what should I do next? How do I keep my family close without letting old wounds reopen? Was firing Samuel the right call, or could I have handled it differently? I'd love to hear your thoughts. What would you have done? For me, this whole mess taught me about resilience, about forgiving without forgetting, and about knowing my own worth, even when others don't see it.
Appreciate you watching. Give it a like, hit subscribe, and catch more drama next time.